Hey everyone, and welcome. So today we're going to dive into something pretty amazing, the science of solar panels. We're going to break down exactly how these things capture the power of the sun and turn it into the electricity that, runs our lives.
And it's a great question, right? I mean, you see these panels everywhere now, quietly sitting on rooftops, out in huge fields, but what is actually going on inside of them? It kind of seems like magic, but it's pure fascinating science. So let's solve this mystery together.
All right, so to start solving our rooftop mystery, we've got to clear up a really common misconception about how solar power even works in the first place.
Okay, so a lot of people think solar panels work by soaking up the sun's heat. But, that's actually a myth. You couldn't just point a giant heater at a panel and expect it to do anything. Instead, they're designed to react to the sun's light. This whole process has a name, the photovoltaic effect, which literally just means light voltage. And believe me, the amount of light energy we have to work with, it's just staggering. Get this. Every single moment, the Earth is getting hit with 173,000 terawatts of solar power. To put that into perspective, that is more than 10,000 times the amount of energy the entire planet uses. So the challenge isn't that we don't have enough energy, it's all about figuring out how to capture it. And that journey, well, it started a long, long time ago.
So, okay, with all this energy just pouring down on us, how did we finally figure out how to grab it? Well, the idea of making electricity from light is not new at all. In fact, scientists have been piecing this puzzle together for almost 200 years now.
It really all started back in 1839. A young French physicist, Edmond Becquerel, was the first one to notice this photovoltaic effect. Fast forward to 1883, and an American inventor, Charles Fritz, creates the very first working solar cell. Now, it was super inefficient, but hey, it proved the concept was possible. The real game changer, though, came in 1954. That's when Bell Labs developed the first practical silicon solar cell, and that really paved the way for the tech we use today.
All right, so let's get into the nitty-gritty. To really understand how a modern solar panel works, we need to zoom in. I mean, way in, down to the microscopic level. This is where the real science magic happens, inside the most basic building block, the solar cell. So the whole thing starts with sunlight. And sunlight is basically made up of these countless tiny packets of energy called photons. You can think of them like microscopic little energy bullets, just constantly streaming from the sun. When these photons hit a solar panel, they're delivering the energy we need to kickstart this whole process.
And the material that's actually catching these photons? It's silicon. And this stuff is everywhere. It's the second most abundant element on Earth. It's basically what sand is made of. Now, silicon is what's called a semiconductor. That means it's not quite a conductor like copper, but it's not an insulator like glass either. It's in this perfect middle ground that lets us control the flow of electricity. But to make it work, pure silicon needs a little tweaking. And this is where the real genius comes in. How the cell is built. You can see it here. It's basically like a sandwich. Engineers take two super thin layers of silicone and they dope them, which is just a fancy way of saying they mix in other elements. One layer, the N-type, gets extra electrons, giving it a negative charge. The other layer, the P-type, is designed with little empty spaces for electrons, which gives it a positive charge. Now, when you put those two layers together, bam! A powerful electric field forms right where they meet. And that field is the secret ingredient. Okay, so this breaks it all down perfectly. First, a photon from the sun smacks into that silicon sandwich. It hits with enough energy to knock an electron loose, leaving a little hole behind. Now, normally, that electron would just wander off randomly. But because of that electric field we just talked about, it gets a huge push. The field acts like a one-way street, forcing all of these freed electrons to flow in the exact same direction. And what do you call an organized flow of electrons? That's electricity. It's just like a line of ants, all marching together, creating a current. So that's the crucial part, right? We've made an electric current inside one tiny little silicon cell. But a single cell, well, it doesn't make a whole lot of power. So the big question is, how do we get that electricity from the tiny world of the cell all the way to the outlet on your wall? Simple. We scale it up. You take a bunch of those individual solar cells and wire them together. That gives you a solar panel or a module. Those are the rectangular things you see on roofs. Then you connect a bunch of those panels together to form a solar array. By linking them all up, you can generate enough power to run a whole house or even a small town. But wait, there's one more really important step. The kind of electricity solar panels make is called direct current, or DC. That's where the electrons just flow in one steady direction. The problem is, our homes and the entire power grid use alternating current, AC,
where the electrons are constantly switching direction, back and forth. The two just don't mix, so we need a translator. And that is the job of the inverter. You can think of it as the brain of the whole operation. This little box takes that DC electricity coming from the panels and cleverly changes it into the AC electricity that all your appliances need. Your fridge, your TV, everything. But the inverter is actually even smarter than that. It also acts like a traffic controller for all that energy. So if your home needs power right now, it sends the electricity straight to your appliances. But what if you're making more power than you're using, say on a bright, sunny afternoon? Well, it can direct that extra energy into a home battery to be stored for later. And if the battery's already full, it can even send that surplus power back out to the grid for your neighbors to use. Okay, but this is probably the #1 question people ask about solar. What happens at night or on a really cloudy day? The sun isn't always out, so how do you keep the lights on 24/7? Well, the answer is in that smart system we were just talking about. At night or on a super cloudy day when the panels aren't doing much, your home can just draw power from the energy you've stored in the battery. And if the battery runs low, no problem. The house just pulls electricity from the main grid exactly like any other home. That combination is what ensures you've got a reliable, uninterrupted supply of power, no matter what the weather's up to. So, there you have it. We've gone all the way from photons to power grids. Before we wrap up, let's just quickly recap with 5 key super facts that really show how incredible this technology is. All right, 5 things to remember. 1, it's all about light, not heat. Solar panels need photons to work. 2, it is completely renewable. We're not using up the sun, it's going to keep shining. 3, the cost has absolutely plummeted. I mean, from around $300 a watt in the 50s to as low as 20 cents today. 4, they are super durable. No moving parts means they can last for over 25 years. And 5, they are totally silent. They just sit there in the sun, making electricity without a sound. You know, when you think about it, from these tiny microscopic cells to powering our whole world, this technology has come an incredibly long way. But this quote, it really highlights the next big challenge. We've gotten really good at creating energy from the sun. The hard part now is getting better at storing it for when the sun isn't shining. So improving battery tech, that's really the key to unlocking the full potential here. And that really just leaves us with a final thought to chew on. As the science keeps getting better and better, we get closer to a future that could be powered entirely by clean, abundant sunlight. It's pretty exciting to think about what that world is going to look like and how this amazing, elegant science we've talked about today is going to shape it. Thanks for tuning in.